But when the final horse came out, I knew it was over. She was perfect. She was everything I didn't know I was looking for. The price was getting higher and higher, and I was running out of money. I really wanted this horse, and I would have given anything to get her.
Auctioneer hammered, heavy duty, never braised, look at 25. 25 apiece, one of them 25 apiece. Look at 25, one of them 25, 25 apiece, 25, look at $10 apiece. 10, 10, I'm a 10, 12 and a half. 10 bid, on choice, 10 bid, 12 and a 10, 12 and a half. Hang on, 12 and a half, and 15, 15, 15, 15, 17 and a half. 50, I'm a 20, $20, 25. 25 apiece. 29, 25, what about 25? $20 right there, 25, new buyer, $30, where's 30? I'm at 25 to my right, 25 way back, 25 and 30, 25 and $30 choice. I'm at 25, but you get $30, 25, but you get $30, 25, but you get 30.
I was already pushing my budget, and the bids were still rolling in for her. I was so stressed out. The bids went to a ridiculous number, and I folded. I didn't have that kind of money. Kweesy then whispered to me that I could use her auction money to keep bidding. I almost told her no, but I really wanted this horse. I could have cried right then and there out of gratefulness. I was back in the bidding, and for a split second, I had the winning bid. I genuinely thought I had won her because the auctioneer said my bid not once but twice, and no one went higher. Just when he was about to say it for the third and final time, someone called out a bid, and my heart plummeted. But I was still in this. It felt like an hour had passed since this auction started, but it had only been a few minutes. I was literally sweating as we got closer and closer to my new maximum. Even Kweesy was looking a bit stressed. And then suddenly, it was all over. Some guy pulled out a number that was so insane, even the auctioneer had to do a double take. No one dared try and top that bid. And just like that, I'd lost. I was genuinely devastated. I can't say that I know why. I didn't come to this auction to get a new horse, and I barely knew anything about this one. But I couldn't help but feel like I was losing something important. I was absolutely gutted. Once the auction was over, I thought we would just leave, but apparently sometimes people do personal sales, and you can get bargains on unsold animals or horses that haven't been paid for. So Kweesy and I went to this little exclusive gathering behind the auction pens. I saw the Arabian straight away and figured I may as well try and see if I could spot any issues with her in an attempt to convince myself she wasn't worth the purchase anyway. The other two Arabians were there too, and I hate to admit that they looked even prettier stabled all together. Maybe I'd win the lottery one day and have a ranch full of gorgeous Arabians. And Jericho, of course. I just happened to look over to my right and I spotted Kweesy talking to some random man. I was quite concerned, so I headed over to see what was happening. Turns out, this was the guy who bought the Arabian I wanted. We ended up chatting to him for a bit, and he mentioned that he knew who I was. Apparently, his daughter has seen my vlogs and is an equestrian herself, and so he was here to get, and I quote, the best horse money can buy. Whoever she is one lucky horse girl. But then he said something that took me completely by surprise. He said that his daughter loved Jericho and had 3 other horses that looked just like him. He then eagerly told us that if he came home with the Jericho, that she would be absolutely over the moon. He suggested that since I clearly was interested in the Arabian, that I give him Jericho in exchange? I didn't know what to say. Jericho was cheap as chips when I bought him because he was fat and the racing yard he was bred at was going out of business. He wouldn't go for even a 1/10 of what this man spent on the Arabian. But at the same time, Jericho was my horse, and I wasn't just gonna swap him over some horse I didn't know anything about. No, I wasn't going to swap him at all. Kweesy didn't say anything, she just looked at me. I feel terrible because for a split second, I considered it. I considered giving Jericho up. But the words that came out of my mouth were, "Thank you so much for the offer, but Jericho isn't for sale." And we said good day and left. We stayed a bit longer to look at the mules, and Kweesy did some more chatting. She apparently was getting more info on the wild horses that were for auction since there was a Mustang makeover coming up soon. We eventually wrapped everything up, and just as we were leaving to catch the train, unfortunately I saw the man leaving with the Arabian. I really wish there was something I could have done to bring her home with me today, but her price was just too high, both money-wise and emotionally. I have a feeling that this isn't the last time I'll see this Arabian, but she definitely wasn't going to come home with me today. The train ride home was quiet but beautiful. We were both deep in thought for a lot of the time, but I was grateful that I had my best friend by my side.
Don't want to sit around and wait. Thin skin, I'm underwater. Is this really happening? You stay silent, you don't mind. Happiness or dollar signs to you. What about not stealing anyone's time? Anyone's time. I vow to always be fearless and far out for days, weeks, and years to come.
After what had been a very eventful day, I was exhausted. My mind was still buzzing from the ride, the auction, and the conversation with the Arabian's owner, but in the end, I was happy that tomorrow I would still wake up as the proud owner of Jericho. The next morning, I woke up bright and early to take Jericho as per usual. I was feeling extra tired today because I didn't sleep too well, but I knew a bit of exercise riding would wake me right up. I will admit, this morning I had a bit of a heart attack because I couldn't see Nikita in the paddock, but she was just munching away in the sheltered stalls. Now, if Nikita was in a stall by choice, that means it was probably going to rain today. Nikita was an older mare and she always knew when it was time to take shelter and keep dry. We had a lovely surprise when Kweesy and the second most handsome horse rolled up. Okay, I might get in trouble for saying that, but I am curious to see, who do you think is more of a handsome boy, Jericho or Gizmo? Comment down below and we can finally settle this. Kweesy said that this morning she had some free time, so she wanted to join me on my ride. Instead of doing our usual set endurance riding with Jericho, we could just go for a nice trail ride instead. Jericho was quite excited to see his friend and did get a little bit silly while he was tied up. I think we were both looking forward to the extra company. before long we were tacked up and ready to roll. It had been a while since me and Kweesy got to hack together by ourselves, so we had lots to chat about. Plus, Gizmo and Jericho had spent a lot of time in the paddock with each other, but they hadn't actually ridden together in a while. As you can see, Gizmo was just thrilled to be out and about with his friend, and he started the walking portion of our ride at this beautiful, awkward prance. The weather didn't look too promising, but it did make for some really beautiful shots. Soaked at the end of our ride, but I was in a great mood. Jericho behaved so well, and Gizmo seemed to have a good time too. As we were approaching McFarlane's, I mentioned how creepy it looked in the mist. Honestly, it would be a great setting for a horror movie. Then I happened to notice that the arena had stuff set up in it. It looked like it had like this tiny barrel pattern and some other stuff, and Kweesy told me that there was meant to be a Western Pony Day today, but it must have been postponed because of the rain. It was still raining by the time we got into the arena, so we parked our horses underneath a sheltered walkway. Usually I would untack straight away, but I was sort of curious about the Western setup. I told Kweesy I wanted to take Jericho around the pattern and over a few of the obstacles, but she said the footing was way too wet and Jericho was, quote, heavy enough to slip. I was already sort of determined to go over a few obstacles, so while Kweesy untacked Gizmo, I looked up the weather and it said it should be set to clear in around 20 minutes. I decided to wait it out and see if I couldn't just walk him around the setup. Gizmo was stabled while we waited and he was a little bit mad about it. Apparently, ever since he was on stall rest, he had been a bit of a pain in the stall since he gets bored and impatient, so this was a really good learning opportunity while he still had things to watch and listen to. Lo and behold, the rain cleared up. The ground was still soaked, but Kweesy was watching out for me, and I promised to go no faster than a trot. There were 3 main sections: a pole bending course, a mini barrel pattern, and what looked like a desensitization area turned Western pleasure. I decided to start off by walking the barrel pattern. I will actually ask for some advice here because I didn't know if I should be looking at the barrel as I went around it, or if I was supposed to look above, or even just at the next barrel. I really haven't done much Western riding, but Kweesy was happy to cackle at me, saying Jericho looked way too tall for barrel racing. To be fair to him though, he never spooked at any of the obstacles, and he also put up with me walking around the pattern a few times. I did get a little cocky and decided to do it at a trot. I don't even know if I was going around the barrels the right way, but I was mostly just trying to have fun. I also noticed the little bridge that was set up, and Kweesy told me to go over it. Now at first, I genuinely thought Jericho was too big. This was a course for Pony Day after all. But she coached me and said all I needed to do was line him up straight and he would figure out the rest. She was totally right. All he needed was a clear view of the obstacle and he walked right over it. I was proper proud. We mucked around for another 10 minutes or so, and I even had to go on the poles, but it wasn't particularly riveting as a walk. Eventually, I decided it was probably time to untack. I can only sing Jericho's praises today. I think he really enjoyed Kweesy and Gizmo's company and was on his best behavior for it. I popped Jericho back into the paddock where Gizmo and Nikita were waiting for him. These guys are so cute together, I swear. Then Kweesy and I went our separate ways for the rest of the day. Come late in the evening, everything was quiet on the ranch. Well, as quiet as a ranch full of animals can be. But right before I settled down for bed, Kweesy started messaging me. All I can do is show you the conversation because I still cannot believe what she said.